Hey, what's up, clever investors? Cody Sperber back again, and in today's training video, we're going to be covering the most important terms of a real estate contract. Now, when you're first getting started in this business, paperwork can feel overwhelming. It can be a little scary. So I just want to go through all of the major terms of a real estate contracts, and I'm also going to give you the paperwork so that way you can follow along and make sure that you can move forward powerfully and actually put some good deals under contract. And I have a special guest with me. His name is Brandon.
Yep. Hello, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Brandon's a little nervous, by the way. So this is Brandon's first day. He's a new member of my acquisitions team in my real estate business. Now, funny story, I actually met Brandon because I had a contest on my Instagram, and his wife entered the contest, won some money on the contest, and then I'm working out. You know, I gotta get my workout on every day. And this ginormous specimen of a man shows up, and he's like, "Hey, man, I just want to introduce myself and thank you. We were some of the winners of the contest." And I was like shocked because I didn't know you were local. Yeah. And so we got to talking. He former military, a Marine, which is, by the way, if I can picture like a badass Marine, don't we want Brandon to go save us? Just go kick ass for us? So anyway, so we started talking. He's into real estate. One thing led to another, and I said, "Hey, why don't you come to my office and come check out our operation and see if maybe joining our acquisitions team is something you'd be interested in?" And bada boom, bada bang. It's funny how things work out because he's here. Yeah. And he's been going through my training. He's been doing a great job. And so we're just going to go through, just kind of, he's learning. How much do you know about real estate contracts?
Nothing really.
Just getting started.
Yep.
All right, so you're going to be asking some good questions. You can be a fly on the wall. And by the way, if you're new to real estate, check this out. This is hot off the press. This is my ultimate real estate success kit. These are all of my best guides that I've created over the years that teach you how to find deals, how to find money, how to find cash buyers, how to, unique lead gen strategies, my books on rehabbing and wholesaling, my systems, my contracts. If you want to get your hands on all of this, absolutely free, just go ahead and click the link in the pinned comment down below. It's my gift to you. This is thousands of dollars of training, absolutely free. All right, and it's going to have my real estate contracts in there. So let's start with that. All right, Brandon, you ready? You're kind of in the hot seat.
Yep.
All right, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So important terms of a contract. So when we're going to focus on the acquisition side of the transaction because that's what you're going to be focused on first, right? Yep. Now, let me ask you something. When we go to put a house under contract, where do we get our paperwork? Do we go to the realtor paperwork? Can we use investor paperwork? Does it matter?
It's going to depend on the transaction. I don't know exactly what criteria we're going to need, but I'm sure I'm going to learn from you right now.
So my kind of general rule of thumb is if we have a real estate agent involved in the transaction, or if there's an attorney or Mr. or Mrs. Know-it-all, somebody that you just know going in, they're going to nitpick every single thing because of prior experience in real estate or being an attorney in a past life or something like that. A lot of times I'll lead with the standard realtor paperwork. 95% of my transactions, we use investor-friendly contracts. Now, we use investor-friendly contracts because it's already built out for the terms of the contract to lean in your direction. Yeah. So that's a good thing, right? Because now we don't have to think like, is this going to allow us to wholesale? Is this going to allow us an escape clause so we can get out of the deal? There's things that we know that we're going to try and do in a transaction, like maybe show the property prior to buying it. Mm-hmm. Those kind of things we want already baked into the contract. In a standard realtor paperwork, it's not pre-baked in there. Think of standard realtor paperwork as being like right down the middle. It's good for the buyer, it's good for the seller. Investor-friendly contracts, a lot of times the terms lean in your direction. So if we're buying, we'll use one set of paperwork that the terms lean in the favor of the investor. And when we're wholesaling or selling, it's a whole different set of paperwork, and those terms lean in your direction. So it just sets us up for an easier transaction. With that said, what is the number one term that in any negotiation on every contract everybody focuses on?
It's going to be that price.
Price. Boom. All All right, so we'll just put price. All right, so what's cool about these contracts is, it's I'm not going to go through every single line on here, but, the first thing we're going to do is put who they are and who we are.
Yep.
Right? In the United States, in order to have a valid contract, it needs to have, it's got to be in writing. The person that's signing it has to be of sound mind. They can't be coerced. They can't be intoxicated. And there's got to be what's called consideration passed. Consideration is what?
They had to have thought through the process of what they're doing. They had to think about it?
No.
I don't know.
Consideration. All right, let me say it another way. It is actually the second term that you're going to want in every contract. Okay? So when I put down, let's say I'm going to buy a property and I put down, and play along at home if you already know this. Look at number 2, purchase price. What does it say? The total purchase price to be paid by the buyer will be whatever.
Correct.
What's payable as follows? And then what's the next line?
The earnest deposit.
So earnest deposit is your consideration.
Okay.
So it's something of value exchanging hands in order to solidify the contract. Now, and this is kind of bonus points for you, does consideration have to be money?
No, it doesn't.
What could it be?
It could be anything. It could be a motorcycle, motorhome.
Boom.
Anything of value to you and them.
Have you watched my videos?
I do remember that from the video.
Yeah, so what's interesting, I've seen people put up like an old car or like a motorhome or something like that as consideration. People horse trade property all the time. It's actually, a smart way to like roll into a better piece of real estate or, kind of roll your tax benefits forward. So we're always negotiating price. Earnest deposit, now I want you to think. When we're trying to acquire real estate, do we want price to be as high as possible or as low as possible?
As low as possible.
All right, so we want to negotiate that term down as far as possible. Now, earnest deposit, what is a standard earnest deposit? And let's just stick with wholesaling. Our intention is to lock up a piece of real estate and then eventually flip it out and wholesale it.
Typically, you like to stay around $500.
Okay, perfect. $500 is a typical earnest deposit. Now, here's a question for you. Would you ever want to put $5,000?
It depends on the terms and the property, I would say. I mean, if it's something we really want to lock up, yeah. Your earnest deposit kind of says how serious you are, so.
What about $1?
I don't really even see a point in that. It doesn't mean you're very serious. You could just kind of be gaffing them off. But you can do that. It's all up to you. So
technically, and you're right, technically you can do it. What we want to focus on is what is our intention. Because if anything ever went sideways on this and attorneys got involved, that would be like the first thing they would ask. Like, what's the intention? Were you ever really intending of buying this, or were you just trying to lock up properties and waste everybody's time? So if you put $1, your intention isn't there, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, what about 10% of the purchase price?
You're there to play ball for sure.
Okay.
Especially around here.
In some places, like this is why some people have a hard time doing deals off the MLS, which, by the way, I'm just saying, I have a whole guide as part of the Real Estate Success Kit on how to scoop deals off the MLS. So, one of the things with doing deals off the MLS, if an agent's involved, they're going to want to negotiate you up on earnest. A savvy seller is going to want a lot of earnest. And they might say, like if you're in California, you might say, hey, we want 5 or 10% of the purchase price. Depending on the local market and the standards of that local market, and whether you're buying directly from a seller or directly through an agent to get the deal, will fluctuate this number. But overall, we want to negotiate this as low as possible with being in the realms of reality.
Yep.
All right. So on a contract, it's who you are, who they are. You're going to put the property address, which I skipped that one, but obviously we want to put the property address. The other thing we want to put on there is called the assessor's parcel number. You ever heard of that?
I did.
Okay, it's also called a tax ID number.
Yep.
Now, where do we find the assessor's parcel number?
Is that the county clerk's office?
Yeah, you can find it on the county recorder's website.
There we go.
Or actually the tax assessor's website. But Yeah, or you can find it inside the MLS. You can find it on Zillow a lot of times. So that number is I like to put that on there because back in the day, especially like here in Arizona, it's not that big a deal. But in some states, some of those properties are like from the 1800s. And the land and the address sometimes doesn't match up. So you don't want to just put the address. You also want to put the parcel number. Then you put the purchase price. Then you put the earnest deposit with the cash balance due at closing. Now, is this earnest deposit at risk if you don't buy the deal?
Depending on your terms of the deal. If it's non-refundable.
Okay. How do you make this to where we're protected? As wholesalers, our job isn't really to buy as much real estate as we can. It's to control as much real estate as we can. Mm-hmm. But if we had, let's say, like us here at this operation, if we have 25 houses under contract, and we, just so you know, I put like 1,000 to 2,500 up in earnest deposits because I like to beat my competition. So right now it's very competitive. So when I show up and I say, "Oh, you already have offers? What did they offer you? Let me see it." And they have $500. I go, "All right, I'll put up 2,500." That's how serious I am. But what I understand, and I have the liquidity to do that. Maybe in the beginning you don't. So if you have 25 houses at $2,500 each, that's a lot of money just sitting there floating. So how do we guarantee that we're going to get that money back? Because I know I'm going to get my $2,500 back. It's never going to be at risk. Mm-hmm. What is the next most important term in a real estate contract?
It's going to be the inspection period.
Boom. Inspection period. All right, inspection period, otherwise known as an escape clause.
Yeah.
Right? We want to have a good escape clause in there, and our inspection period is pretty clear. It just says, this inspection period goes up until the day before close of escrow. So we push out escrow 30 days, we have 29-day inspection period. Now, what happens if it's a savvy seller, or their previous real estate agent, or their previous attorney, or an attorney, and they push back on that, and they say, absolutely not. What do you mean your inspection period is the entire closing period? What can you modify it as?
You could always do 10 business days, which will get you almost like 14 days total.
So option 1 is day before close of escrow, and option 2 is some amount of biz days.
Yes.
Right? 10 business days, 15 business days. Now, why business days?
Because Saturday and Sunday are free days for you.
You get a couple extra days, right? So, I would do 10 to 15 business days, 30 business days, however many you can get. So those are the two options. I have it baked into our contracts that it's the day before close of escrow, but guess what? Here's the cool thing about creative real estate investing. If you're sitting down at a seller's house, they say, I don't like that term. I literally get out my pen, I just cross it off. I say, what would you like me to write right here? And I'll write on the side, I'll write on the back, and we just initial, and we're good to go. So it's easy to modify the terms. Don't get stuck too much. Get the deal, and we can always maneuver around some of these other terms. This term and this term are, obviously the most important, trying to figure out how to get the deal and lock it up. This is your escape clause. If they say, I don't want an inspection period, this might not be a good deal for us if our intention is to wholesale. Right? Unless it's a slam dunk home run, then as long as it is, we might say, you know what, it's worth us risking $500 or $1,000 because what people have to understand is at the end of a wholesale deal, one of a couple things is going to happen. We're either going to wholesale it and close it and get paid, or we're not. We're not going to be able to find a cash buyer, and we're going to show up and we're going to say what? What are our other options?
To back out of the contract, and then we lose the deposit. But
if the inspection period has run out, we will lose the deposit.
Correct.
If the inspection period's still going on, we get the deposit back. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, can the seller force us to buy the property?
No, not within those terms. If we're still in our inspection period, or
what if the inspection period's done? Can the seller force us to buy the property? We agreed, right? We signed a contract. We agreed. Can they force us to buy it?
No. I don't know exactly why, but I know we don't have to.
Yeah, boom, you nailed it. When you're buying real estate, you can back out. This is why consideration is important, and this is why a savvy seller is going to want you to put a lot down here.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a savvy seller is going to want to negotiate this down as far as possible. Now, flip the world. Let's say we're selling a property. We're now the seller. Somebody else is the buyer. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Can the cash buyer force us to sell? So we're not forced to buy, but can the cash buyer force us to sell?
Yes, they can. Because if you're in a contract, and they can take legal actions against it.
They're putting up the property as their consideration.
Yep.
Right? So while this is the only thing at risk on one side of the transaction, the property's at risk on the other side. So yes, if somebody tries to back out of a deal, like I've had sellers in the past say, you know what, I've gotten a better offer right behind you, I'm out. I say, sorry, it doesn't work like that. We have a contract. And I can actually go and file what's called a lis pendens, cloud the title, and force the sale. All right, so now you know. All right, what's another term? These ones, we can go fast through the rest of these.
Okay.
All right, what's another term?
For most important terms?
Well, yeah, just like I mentioned it, where are we?
We're going to be taking possession.
Nope.
Or closing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Where is the close? Where is closing? Right? We want to know where is closing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as the buyer, we get the right to choose. So that's something we want to control because we're going to take our deal to an investor-friendly closing agent that understands wholesaling, that understands rehabbing, that works with investors, gives us an investor discount. All right? So where closing is very important. It's an important term to make sure it's in your paperwork. How about what else?
That's a very good one.
Who pays closing costs,
Absolutely.
right? So who's going to pay the closing costs? Now, closing costs, my recommendation if you're brand new is to go to your closing agent and mock up a fake 100 or depending on the price range that you're working in, a $100,000 or a $200,000 all cash transaction. Mm-hmm. Say, just mock it up as if I'm flipping a house for $100,000 cash. And what will happen is you'll be able to look at the settlement statement and see, oh, these are all the fees that you would typically charge in a situation like that. So now I know, hey, there's about $3,000 to $4,000 in closing costs. Okay, now I can, when I'm negotiating, I know if I'm offering, because one of the biggest pitches we do is I'm going to make this so easy on you. It's hassle-free, no repairs, no commissions. I'll pay the closing costs for you, right? We're trying to make a simple transaction. Well, if I need to know what that is and who's paying that. Now, what happens if they negotiate me up on price?
Then we can use the closing costs as another negotiation tool for the price.
Yep, levers,
Yeah.
right? We're just pulling levers. So if they start negotiating us up on price, we can then backtrack and say, well, listen, normally I pay all the closing costs. Would you be willing to go back to like a standard situation where you pay your half, I pay my half? Mm-hmm. So now instead of covering all $3 or $4 or $5 grand, you're going to pay $2,500. I'm going to pay $2,500. So even though they feel like, oh, I got them up by $6 grand, I just took $2-3 grand back here.
Yep.
So it's just pulling levers. All right, what else? What about close of escrow? What was the other one? Oh, yeah. Date. That's a big one, right? Close of escrow date. Now, do we want to push this out as far as possible, or do we want it right away?
Depending on your situation, but yeah, we want to give us enough time to make sure it's a good deal and we have enough time to do our inspections and pull out if we need to.
And to market it so we can find a wholesale buyer.
Right.
So we want to push this out as far as possible. That's why a lot of times we'll say, look, we can close quickly, but then as we're negotiating, we slowly walk back some of that and push out the closing as far as we can. And we could say things like, look, we're going to try and close it as fast as possible. But I would like to put on the contract on or before 30 days from now because my closing agent, they're very busy. They have a lot of things going on, a lot of transactions, and they're falling behind. And so I called them right before I came over here, and they need a little bit more time. So I'm going to put on or before 30 days, and my intention is to close this as fast as we can. A lot of times they don't have a problem, and if they do, we can always walk it back and say, well, all right, we'll close in 15 business days. You get how we do that?
Yep.
Always add the little business days in there. So it doesn't matter what real estate contract you use, whether it's mine or the realtor contract or another set of paperwork that you have that you downloaded online or whatever. These are the 6 main terms of the deal. Now, I do want to give a little bonus for everybody watching. Okay. There are 2 clauses we want in a contract, and I want you to actually read the clauses because I think you need to understand why we have them in there. What does it say under clause number 5, possession?
All right, it says, seller shall surrender possession to the property on or before possession date. In event possession is not delivered at closing, buyer shall withhold proceeds from the sale in the amount of blank as security until possession is granted. Daily penalty is whatever you deem per day. This paragraph shall survive the closing of the title.
Yeah, so what we're saying there is a lot of times we'll work out a deal with the seller. We'll put up our earnest deposit, we'll go open escrow, we'll find a cash buyer, we'll go push it to the closing table only to find the seller's like, I don't need post-possession, but I haven't actually moved out and it's closing date. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hold back, say, $10,000 and charge them a $200 per diem till they get out. We've had that happen a few times where everything's worked out and we're ready to make our wholesale fee and the seller's dragging their feet to get out. And they're like, oh, I'll get out tomorrow, or the moving van can't come for a few days. But the cash buyer's like, I want to close and I want to close now. We don't want to postpone the transaction. Everybody's hot and heavy, ready to go. So what we'll do is we'll do a holdback of $10,000 and then charge the seller $200 per day till they get out. Then we can close, we get our money, we're good to go. All right, one more important clause and then we'll wind this video down. Go to number 10, cure period.
Okay,
read that.
A party shall have the opportunity to cure potential breach of this contract. If a party fails to comply with any provision of this contract, the other party shall deliver a notice to the non-complying party specifying the non-compliance. If the non-compliance is not cured within 3 days after delivery of such notice, the cure period, the failure to comply shall result in a breach of contract.
Yeah, so it's really important when you're wholesaling, especially on the side of the transaction where you want more flexibility, which is the acquisition side, you want a cure period. So what that says is, let's say we put a house under contract, but we don't put up earnest deposit. Mm-hmm. And we're marketing it to see if we can hustle, right? We're trying to get a buyer and we can't find a buyer. And it's been a week and the seller's freaking out. They're like, I've called title 50 times. Title's calling us. They're saying, why haven't you put up earnest deposit? Well, instead of yelling at us, they could actually file what's called a cure notice, which will force us to put up the earnest. Another thing is, what if we don't close on time because we haven't found a cash buyer yet? Well, we just bought 3 extra days by forcing them to put a cure notice in the to have to give it to us in writing, which gives us 3 extra days to find a buyer so we can continue to scramble. So that cure notice is like an extension clause. You understand? Mm-hmm. Now, we're not going to want a cure notice necessarily on the disposition side because we don't want to give the cash buyer extension capabilities. All right? But maybe we'll put a possession clause on there or a per diem clause in there, that kind of thing. Like if they put this house under contract and they don't close on time, we charge 250 days per diem as a charge to extend the contract. So when you look at paperwork, man, it is literally just you understanding all of these terms and then getting good at modifying them on the fly. Mm-hmm. So when my mentor used to say, Cody, you need to become a transactional engineer, it wasn't just understanding a strategy, like how does wholesaling work or rehabbing work. It was understanding this, how to pull all those levers in real time. So as the seller's feeding me information, I'm like, okay, I could structure it like this, or I can move the money over here, I can buy more time here. This is how I work out a win-win transaction type of thing. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. Dude, you're going to be a beast.
Let's hope so.
A beast. All right, hey guys, listen, hopefully you got something from this. If you did, smash the like button, drop a comment down below. Give Brandon some damn encouragement. All right, give this man some encouragement. I think he's going to do great. Tell him he's going to do great, and then tell him he's got to go get a lot of houses for me so I can buy a lot of real estate. All right, we can buy a lot of real estate.
I'm done with that.
Hey, and isn't it funny how things work out? You never know. You could be literally just following me on Instagram or YouTube one day, and the next thing you know, you're sitting in my office.
I know.
We're vibing out. We're doing some real estate deals together. And it could start right here, too. Look, last time, I'm not going to, and I want to show you this. Just, Greg, look at this. I'm just going to show you real quick. This isn't like lame, right? These are step-by-step documents showing you exactly how to do what I'm teaching you to do. And it's absolutely free. You want to scale, you want to outsource, you want to find money, you want to get ways to find sellers, you want to dominate on Craigslist, you want to do it off the MLS, you want 17 of my best cash buyer hacks, you want all my contracts, my paperwork, my wholesaling book, my guide, the systems, the structure, the docs. This is getting ridiculous now. How's anybody going to keep up with me? Look, just click the link in the pinned comment down below and get this for free. You can thank me later. Until next time, I'm Cody Sperber, the Clever Investor, signing off with
Brandon.
I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Comb your hair. We out.